What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Love Pastors podcast. I'm your host, Gary Underwood, and thank you, pastors and friends of pastors, for listening to these conversations with leaders in the church and hearing about their souls, hearing about their relationships, hearing about what makes them tick or has kept them in the ministry. And guys, today I get the thrill of bringing on a friend who has encouraged me at many points throughout my life in ministry. Jeff Bogue, welcome to Love Pastors.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. It's good to be here.
It is great to see you, and man, I'm excited for how God continues to move in and through your ministry. What's going on lately in your life and ministry? Like, tell us where you're at.
Life I'm doing is great. We just had our second grandchild, so that was amazing just a couple days ago. So I have two granddaughters. So I'm adjusting to that. So I'm not sure I've figured out the grandparenting thing yet, but I do like to be with them. And it's a whole new dynamic. And it's fun. Heidi and I came back from the hospital. Our second granddaughter was just born less than a week ago.
Awesome.
So we're at the hospital, and I was just like, sweetheart, like, God is so good to us. You get this beautiful, healthy baby, and our son and his wife love Jesus, love us, love each other, and so God is wonderful, and my family is wildly important to me, and so God has just been wonderful with our kids. Love Jesus, walk with the Lord, love us. Our prayer was always that they would love God, they would love Jesus, they would love us, and they would love each other. And God has answered that prayer. So that's been great. And then the church is just booming, and it's a wild ride, and we're usually just trying to keep up with it. So I talk with my team a lot about how God is moving. He's moving in dynamic ways, and our job is to join him, not ask him to bless what we decided to do. And so we pray for a lot of wisdom and a lot of discernment, and then a lot of energy and a lot of how do you do a backflip to find more seats or start the next campus and all this kind of thing. So it's a fun ride.
Well, I was excited to hear about Middle Branch. I'm a Stark County guy, so to see that opportunity open up and also to know some of the families that have been connected there, I think that's exciting to have Grace Church in Stark County. But your family, Jeff, has always been an encouragement to me, to Jenny, to a lot of other families. And I remember like my first encounters with you. You and Heidi were seniors at Grace College back in the day, and I was a little freshman, like looking up to you guys as leaders or as pioneers in ministry. And then you moved to Akron, where that's the crazy thing, man. You moved to Akron on purpose, and you've been there how long? Like Wadsworth.
Yeah, Norton, Barberton, Wadsworth. Now the east side of Medina is where we live now, but we've been here for 32 years. I've had one job coming out of college. I've been at the same church for 32 years, and my prayer has always been that I go the distance here. So I asked the Lord when I was 22 for 50 years of health and full-time ministry, and so He's given us that for 32 years. And then I don't believe in retirement. So I don't plan on retiring, but the Bible shows us that the priest, when they would get a certain age, they would step aside so the younger priests would learn and lead. So I'll get out of people's ways, but I don't believe in hanging up the spikes. So I'll just do something different. I look at Bob Combs, who's a legend here in Akron, Newt Larson, who's a friend. Those guys, Ed Lewis, who's a friend that you and I know, none of them are retired. Yeah. They just changed spots on the team. And so they're kind of my model for that. But yeah, we've had a good run.
Well, and you and I have talked often about guys like Bob Combs, Newt Larson, like that have poured into us as younger leaders, and you have taken that and you pour in and encourage younger pastors. One of my unforgettable memories of you, and I this is also me apologizing, was I remember I had been a lead pastor for 7 or 8 years at Delaware, and was going through a rough time and saw you at conference, and I just we kind of vomited on the Bogues. Like, here's what
Yeah.
everything we're going through over breakfast. And you listened and you encouraged and you affirmed like the junk I was going through as a pastor. So I want to say, like, one of the reasons I was excited to have you on the show is because I know you care. You're as busy as anybody, but you care about and you invest in pastors. And what is it about, like, encouraging other pastors, because you start groups, right? You've
Mhm.
pursued relationships like that with Leadership Network or GoNet or others throughout the years. Like, what is it about those connections with brothers and sisters in ministry that's been so life-giving for you?
Well, part of it, I think, is a responsibility that I feel like I have. So as I
Mm,
was coming up, I when Newt Larson was in Akron, it was the big deal in Northeast Ohio. Anytime I was in a bind and I called, he took my phone call. And I always remember that. I'm like, I'm in trouble or I'm facing something I never faced before. He would take my phone call. Bob Combs, of course, was my mentor and boss and invested in me. Bishop Johnson, who's like,
mm,
I just love him to pieces. Uh, I might not be in ministry if it wasn't for Bishop. I was at one of the lowest points of my life in ministry because of grief, and I didn't know that. And so he wisely, but he dropped everything and came to my side and like walked me through it. So part of it is when you get older and you do know things you didn't used to know, and you can bring a perspective that you can only get by having enough miles on you.
mm,
I want to share that. The other side of it is like I run cohorts. You've been a part of those things. Like, we call it Momentum Pro, and um, uh, I get life out of hanging out with these guys, and
mm,
so I get new ideas. When you, I am, and I mean all this humbly. So I'm used to being the cutting edge. Well, as you get older, you're just not.
yeah.
You're just not the cutting edge, and so what you have to do is surround yourself with people who are the cutting edge. Well, I want that to be a mutually beneficial relationship. So you can keep me young and fresh, and I can keep you out of trouble and make your life
Mm,
easier with just a couple points of wisdom. So when all that turns into a friendship, it's just fun,
yeah.
and I got guys, actually a bunch of them are from Akron, not all of them, but guys from town here, and they're part of this Momentum Pro with me, and we'll go out on a meeting together, and laugh and joke, and it is so much fun, and I enjoy the relationship. So I just think
Mm,
it's way more fun to watch your kid hit a home run than it is to hit one yourself.
yeah.
But you
Yeah.
don't know that until later on in life. And so when you have gone through your 20s and 30s and you're striving and you're trying to create and invent, which we did here at Grace, your head's down and you're
Yeah.
playing the game. Well, you don't realize how fun it is to coach the game. And when there's a chance for a grand slam, you don't realize that it's more fun to send your kid up there and let them hit it,
Right.
that
Right.
because you've hit yours already, and so I love watching them succeed, and I love like I'm so integrated in the community now. I've got connections, and I'm like, hey, did you know there's a building for sale? Hey, did you know this? Or how do we raise money? I'm like, I come over to
Hmm.
the house. I'll show you how to do that real quick, and it's just it's a joy. And then I believe very strongly in that the church, God sees the church as the city. So I don't think God looks at Grace Church, the House of the Lord, and the chapel and Remedy, and I think God looks at the Church of Akron.
Mm,
And so it's fun to be an elder in that now, and these guys call me bishop. Our tradition doesn't have the role of
right.
bishop, but they're like, that's what you are. I'm like, okay. But
Yeah.
it's fun, and it's fun to see the Church of Akron thrive, and it's fun to know that the kingdom of God's going to outlive whatever you do. and it's just wildly fulfilling, I think.
We need that reminder that there's other churches, other brothers and sisters. We're not doing this on an island on our own. Because, like you said, you had Bishop you could call on in a moment. Like, were there
Yeah.
moments like that where you're like, ministry is too hard, I think I'm done? Like, do you ever have a moment, or multiple times, I would guess, during your pastoring?
Yeah. I still have those moments,
Yeah.
and I'm like, why am I doing this? But what happened? I was talking with my some of my staff about this. One of our campuses was on a retreat, and we were just sharing personally. And I said the thing about ministry, and I think why I love what you're doing, Gary, and I've always loved your heart for this stuff. You've always been loving that way. But um, the thing with ministry is weird in that only pastors understand pastors.
Mm,
It's not comparable. It would be like how a cop understands a cop, or a surgeon understands a surgeon. Like you don't. There's nobody else that can read between the lines. So, like, it's for instance, it's very taboo to say I struggle, or I'm mad,
right.
or I'm hurt. It's very taboo. But you say that to another pastor, you're doing it right now. You're like, I know what you mean, kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's very taboo to celebrate. Hey, we had the biggest attendance we've ever had. We had the biggest offering
Right.
we've ever had. Very taboo. You can't go on Facebook and or Instagram and say that. But if you have a trusted pastor, you can do that. And so, to me, those relationships are super important. I do have deep friendships that are not in the pastoring world. Um, but running a church and running a business is not the same thing. Leading in the church and leading in the marketplace is not the same thing. It's not that one is better or harder, it's just different. And so there's something about sharing that,
Yeah.
because I still want to quit some days. I'm
Mm.
like, I am so done. Why don't I just go make money or get out from under this pressure?
You're a grandpa now, man.
I'm
You
a
you
grandpa now, I'm getting old,
live large. Yeah.
but if I said right now I can't do it because of my calling, you understand, and the pastors listening understand. I don't have My life is not my own, and I
Yeah.
don't have the freedom to do what I want to do vocationally. I could not look Jesus in the eye, so to say. So I'm stuck. And sometimes that's wonderful, and sometimes it's difficult. And I think pastors can be whiny. Like, I'm like, get over it. Like, talk to
Guilty. I've been there. You've seen
yeah.
my chapter of Gary's life or two, and I appreciate both your encouragement and your like, suck it up, dude. Like,
Yeah,
we
it's
need people that will truth tell in those moments.
I pastors all the time are like, the holidays are so hard. I'm like, talk to the UPS guy.
Right.
He works crazy hours. Like, come on, quit being
Right.
whiny. You got a job. So I think there's times we can be whiny. And then I think there's parts of what we do that are very, very unique. And we do them because we feel compelled by God. I tell that when we're training young people for ministry, I always say to them, if you can do anything else and be at peace with God, you should do that.
Mm,
Because being a pastor is not the highest calling in the kingdom of God. It's one of the callings in the kingdom of God. But if you've got to do this, then you have to do it. And so we have to carry that weight. Our work is deeply personal.
yeah.
So when our employees fail us, those are also our friends. They also bring tension into the church. I was talking to one of our interns the other day. I was showing him how to do a funeral, and I said, he said, "Is this hard?" I said, "It is hard. Normal people don't bury as many friends as a pastor does.
Right. That's right.
Normal people don't have as many friends walk out of their lives aggressively as a pastor does. Normal people, when there's a blow up at the office, their children don't lose their best friends because the whole family left the church
Right.
like the pastor
Yeah.
does. So there's a unique weight, and I think we have to help each other bear that. And I personally, I get tired of the weight. I'm
Yeah.
like, somebody else be in charge. Somebody else. I want to get mad and walk away and not talk to you anymore.
Right. Yeah.
And so, but on the whole, I like to say that ministry is it's a great way to live. It's a horrible way to make a living.
Mm,
And so I'm grateful for God's call on my life. And on the whole, it's been wonderful. And then it has those moments where we're all done.
yeah.
What I have to do is take a nap. I got to get away from it. I got to get my confidence back from the Spirit of God, and then I got to go at it again. And so it's there's rhythms to it and all the rest that help with that.
Yeah, I wanted to get at what are some of the rhythms that you have learned over time. I need this on a monthly, breakfast with Jason, or a monthly guys night out, or I need to shut off the Browns broadcast because that only brings up the pain. Like
The
what?
worst of me out.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. I'd love to hear like what are the things you realize? Oh, I can't do that because that's deflating me, or the things I need to keep doing or schedule. Because if you don't schedule it, it may not happen.
Yeah, so the I think it's all individual, and I also think it changes over time. For me, I need my family. And so, what that meant when my kids were little, Heidi and I have 6 children, and
Hmm.
now we have 3 daughter-in-laws. So now we have 9, and we have 2 grandkids. So now we got 11. So I got to.
And are you empty nesters too? Are they all
My our youngest lives at home. He's going
okay?
to college, but he's
Yeah,
living at home. And then our daughter is on her way to the mission field. So she's in the house right now, but it's transitional. And
gotcha.
then everybody else is that our oldest 3 are married. Our fourth son lives with some buddies in a house,
Okay.
and is finishing college. And then our daughter and our youngest are our 2 youngest. So I need my family. I needed to know, uh, it relieved me and relaxed me when I was confident I was an engaged father.
Mm,
When I wasn't an engaged father, I felt guilt and worry. And then I generally enjoyed engaging my family. There's obviously hard times in there too, but I liked to play with the kids and have movie nights, and it was
yeah.
refreshing for me. Um, as the kids get older, they don't need you as much now that they're in adult land. Like I need to be alone, and I need to do something physical.
Mm,
So I love mowing my grass. I love landscaping. We have a few acres, so I have plenty of opportunities. I love a chainsaw. I have a Kubota tractor. I always say there's never a bad day on the Kubota.
okay.
It's so you kind of find some guys it's the golf course. I hate playing golf.
Right.
Some guys it's whatever, and so I'm like, but I think finding those things. And then it's interesting when your family's young, you have less personal refreshment. I think
Mm,
the refreshment came from knowing I was honoring God in my marriage and with my family. And then I enjoyed the kids. But I didn't want to watch, The Little Mermaid. I just did it
right.
because they did, kind of thing. I found ways to include my family. And so everything from we would build the tree house together to when our kids got say 7 or 8, if you wanted me to come speak or something like that, you had to allow me to bring my kids with me.
Hmm.
And so I would usually take one of them. It was a special time with like one child, but it was a deep investment, and I
Yeah.
love that. And then as they became teenagers and in college, and even now, we do a lot of ministry together. So
And
that's
Jeff, can
fun.
I ask you, like, one of my favorite, I can't remember if I ever told you this. One of my favorite things you have done with your family is you made Christmas family rap videos.
Yeah.
that you wrote individual raps, and your
Yep.
music I think was original as well. And you recorded a family Christmas video that was like, I mean, it was epic. It was so good. Um,
Yeah.
but it's like you went out of your way to do a lot of creative, fun things together, and I love that.
Yeah, we
Like,
just did it together, and those things are out on YouTube, Bogue Family Christmas, and we did a few of them, and they were just
yeah,
fun. It was us goofing off, and having fun. And we would, what I did with my schedule when the kids were little, we have Saturday services and have most of my career here. And so what I did was I would leave the office at noon ish on Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
Thursday afternoon and evening, daddy had to do his chores. So I'd mow the grass. This is how the kids understood it.
Yeah.
Then all day Friday was theirs. And we would make a rap video or build a tree house or get the go-karts out or whatever we were doing. And I would do a deep investment in them on Friday because I would go to the office Saturday morning and I work on the weekends.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
get that this is a place that pastors can frustrate me sometimes. They're like, Saturdays are so hard. I'm like, tell that to the cop that's got to work on the weekend. I missed my kid's game. Okay, well, tell the referee that's working to referee your game. Like, it's just the way life works,
Right.
you know? And so I'm
Right.
like, um, we would just kind of manage it, but we would find those rhythms in that
And you did a
setup.
lot. You guys did a lot together and still do with the church. And here's a question. This is not on our script, so apologies if I'm going off road too much here. But like, there are times when it can seem like, or it can actually be where, as a family, like we are loving being at the church together, whether it's for an event or for a season. Then there are other times when, like, man, we need some space from church, or half of us are loving this moment, the other half, church is becoming, and not that that's not life. Do you get what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
we have 3 kids. I don't have 6, but I know there are seasons when, whether it's personality or life stage, like they needed a break from church, church, church.
Yeah. And we just navigated that per kid. And so there's been a lot of pressure on our kids of, are you going to be a because I have 5 boys and a daughter. So are you going to be a pastor? Are you going to be a pastor? And the kids would get annoyed with that. And I would look at them, and Heidi and I would look at them and say, do you know that pressure's not coming from mom and dad? Yeah, we know. And then I'd be like, okay, then get over it. Like, people are gonna say what they're gonna say.
Yeah.
Um, but we were blessed that our kids loved the youth group and they were involved, and it
Hmm.
we just kind of made that our life, but there wasn't a pressure. And so if the pressure wasn't, you got to go to life group because dad's the pastor, the pressure was, you're not going to sit here and play video games instead of going to life group, buddy. Like, well, I don't like it. Well, then you lead it and you fix it and you
Mm,
improve it. But
mm,
it wasn't because you got to make dad look good.
yeah.
I would actually, I'll say 2 things to that. One is that our church family was very loving toward our family. So I'm grateful for that. And 2, I drew some pretty strong lines.
Mm,
And if I saw somebody was being critical or hyper focused on my kid, I would say something to them. I'm like, you're not doing that. It's not their fault what their dad does for a living, and they don't have to perform for you. And
yeah.
I'm not going to allow that to be that way.
Can you remember like specific conversation, or like, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like you were like caught off guard by something somebody said, or you had to,
Yeah, so there was, I was reminded of this because I didn't know this, but it was a core memory for one of my sons because
mm,
he remembered me doing this. But I remember we were in the lobby one time, and Sunday school had let out, and I'm just up there visiting with people, and the kid's Sunday school teacher came up to me, my one son's Sunday school teacher, and said, "Man, your kid was a real booger in class today. He wouldn't sit down and he wouldn't pay attention." And my kid was like 7 or something like that, and he is
yeah, yeah.
full of energy. So I'm like, "I got you." And I said to him, I said, "Do you talk to every parent when their kid is misbehaving in Sunday school?" And he said, "No." I said, "Then I don't want you to ever tell me what my kid did in Sunday school again."
Mm,
He gets to be a kid, and if the other
yeah,
kids didn't
yeah.
get in trouble for it, then he's not to be in trouble for it. And if it's not bad enough that you didn't pull another parent aside, don't pull me aside. Well, my
Mm,
son was preaching a sermon about a year ago and told that story. I never knew he knew that happened.
really?
But
How
he
did he
would
find out? Was he
well, he watched it
okay?
as a 7-year-old, and he remembered it. And
Mm,
it clicked for him. My dad will stick up for me,
yeah,
and I don't have to perform for my father. So it was like this core thing God used in his life, but I didn't even know that until he's
yeah.
27 now. So that's 20 years ago.
It's priceless. Yeah,
But locked on. So there's things like that, but mostly people, even if they did that, they were being well intentioned. It's
sure.
like a
Yeah.
friend who's a cop. You always talk to them about being a cop, and they're like, I have other parts of my life too, you know.
Right.
So
Well, I think that's good segue to friends who know you other than Pastor Jeff,
yeah.
right? And other than just seeing you at church. And I wanted to pick your brain or your story of your friendship with Vinny Fisher
Hmm.
and just how God I don't know if at what point you knew you guys would have a unique friendship over the long term, but maybe you could just talk a little about what he means to you and that friendship.
Vinny means the world to me, and his wife and his family and our families are very close. He is uh, he's been a godsend. And what's unique about Vinny is a part of the church. So uh, I have another friend that Jason Haymaker, Jason and Marcy, and Jason and I have been friends since high school.
Yeah.
He means the world to me. My kids call him Uncle Jason, Aunt Marcy. Um, uh, Jason is a fellow pastor, and
Yeah.
so we kind of talk about almost different things sometimes than Vinny and I do. But Vinny and Debbie have been a part of the church almost from the very beginning. And it's funny, our friendship was formed uh, as I was pastoring Vinny, and then almost cemented through some hard times.
Mm,
And
mhm.
I was just loyal to him and kind of grace filled to him. And I think that if you know Vinny's story, he had a very difficult upbringing, very
Mm,
difficult. He's a miracle, and so's Debbie. They're cycle breakers. They're miracles. So I think maybe some of those hard times formed a trust, and then that just turned into a bond. And so we vacation together. In fact, it's funny, they're coming over tonight. We're
okay.
just playing euchre tonight and hanging out some because I had a free evening. So it's funny that you bring them up, but his faith grew and deepened
Mhm.
as our friendship grew and deepened. And now Vinny's faith is, this sounds weird, but like we're on the same level where
Yeah.
I got to be a part of growing his faith. And now he's like a very mature, very devoted follower of Jesus. Because it's just 20 years of, the Vinny I knew 20 years ago is not the Vinny I know today. And I
Right.
think he would probably say the same thing about me. But we often talk about, he and I talk a lot about this. I have other friends, Joe Duraco, Eric Bosshart, and others. I could go through a list, I guess, but
Yeah.
like we'll talk about how valuable and rare those relationships are. So some of those things, like with Jason and Marcy,
Mm,
it's lots of miles, lots of life, lots of investment. Some of those relationships, like with Vinny and Debbie, are circumstantial in that we wound up at the same church together as adults. Our kids are kind of the same age, and then you kind of pick up, the depth of friendship. Some of those relationships, I literally schedule. So, like Eric, Joe, and Vinny and I schedule being together about once a quarter. And we started doing that because when the kids were little, and our kids are all kind of the same age, there's
yeah.
no
Yeah.
way you're like, what do you guys, you just wind up free. So we would when the kids were little, we'd get together starting at 8 o'clock at night. We get the kids down with our wives, and then we would meet at somebody's houses. Now we get together earlier because we're old and the
Eight
kids
o'clock
don't
is
need us.
bedtime now.
Yeah, that's right.
But
But
yeah,
there's lots of like you clicked with a person, and then
yeah,
there's even Jason and I have very intentionally invested in that relationship over the years, and so um, you find friends and then you create them. And I think sometimes
mhm,
we romanticize finding them. And Heidi and I, out of college, we're like, we're gonna have to create. Like, we moved to a town, we didn't know anybody, so we're like,
yeah,
we're gonna have to
yeah,
create these relationships. And then it was later on that Jason and Marcy happened to move close to us,
yeah.
and so that's where the proximity came with them.
Well, and interesting, like none of these people you've mentioned have been on staff with you,
No,
right? That's I think part of the health of those friendships. I maybe it would have complicated things, but you also have staff friends that's maybe a different species of friendship, but they're like been with you for a long time.
yeah, I
Like,
mean, our staff has deep longevity to it, and the youthful part of our staff is a result of growth, not necessarily replacement. The staff has grown bigger over the years.
yeah,
But I think, I mean, I could name all kinds of names, but Ezra Wimberly, Brad Dietz Creek, Joe Caruso, and I could go on. I'm missing a ton, but I could go on and on. Those relationships are different. Tony Lavigny, Ryan Rodman, Dan Gregory, they're different because
yeah,
we actually spend the day together.
yeah,
So I joke, Ezra has been with me for almost 25 years. We kind of did most of this journey together, the two of us. And I've had people ask me, like, are you close with Ezra? I'm like, I'm extremely close to Ezra.
yeah,
And then they'll
yeah,
say, do you guys and your families hang out a lot? I'm like, no, we never do that. They're like, why not? I thought you were close. I'm like,
yeah.
I spend more time with Ezra than I do Heidi. Like, I don't need to go see a movie with Ezra.
Right, right.
but but our loyalty and our love and our enjoyment is massive, and there is this dynamic that uh, I am the boss, and that doesn't mean that I boss him around, but it means that, like, well, what you say goes, kind of a thing. And so yeah, I
Yeah.
would call it a different relationship. But to me, friendship is loyalty, not time.
Mm,
So I don't. You would be a wonderful example of this, Gary. Like, I'm deeply loyal to you, but we don't get to spend. We have cumulatively over the years spent
yep.
chunk of time together. But like, when you're like, can you do my podcast? I'm like, yeah, for you, I'll do it. I won't do it for other people, but I'll do it for you. So part of that's how I define friendship, and then I have to have friends that define it the same way. Because if
Yeah.
they're like, "Do you want to hang out every weekend?" I'm like, I so don't want to hang out every weekend. I want to be alone,
Right.
or I want to be with my family.
Yeah. Yep. Hey, would you, Jeff? Would you describe yourself? This is a cheesy question, but it's going to get us somewhere, and then we'll wrap things up. Would you describe yourself as an introvert or an extrovert? Because as a pastor, you've got a lot of people in your life.
Yeah. I learned a third term. Have you heard the term
Is it the
ambivert?
ambivert? Yeah.
Yeah. When I heard that, I'm like, that is what I am. So an ambivert is a person who is introverted but can be extroverted at will.
Yeah.
And this is what I also found with this. I don't know if this is part of being ambivert or not, but what I found is, if I spend too much time with too many people, I get cynical
Mm,
because I am actually naturally shy. So sometimes people think that I'm aloof, and then I found out recently they think I'm intimidating, and I'm like, why? Like, the way you look. I'm like, oh, that's because I'm like scared and I'm shy,
mm,
especially in networking situations or in one-on-one situations. Like, I'm
yeah.
uncomfortable in those things, but I can fake it, right? But it drains
Yeah.
me. So I get drained. I'll get cynical if I'm overstimulated with people. What I found a couple years ago, I didn't really realize this a couple years ago. If I'm not with people for a long, long time, I get depressed.
Mm,
So it's to
yeah.
me, it's that ambivert, like hit it. Like I kind of need both,
Yeah.
but I need them. I like need it at my will, which is probably somehow selfish. So I
Well,
need and like
no.
to be with people, but I need and like to be alone.
Well, and one of the reasons you know me and where I'm coming from and my relational bent, like one of the reasons I even started Love Pastors is I feel like pastors can tend to have their relational tank drained. They can be worn down from people always wanting a piece of their time, but like are there people in your life that are pursuing you because they care about you
Yeah.
and and you want them to pursue you? Like I think that's something else you're alluding to. If everybody pursues Jeff, well then good luck with that. But I'm
Yeah.
guessing it still feels good and that you know you need certain people to pursue you.
Yeah, that is true, and then it's very individualized. So, like
Yeah.
when COVID hit a few years ago, and we only didn't meet as a church for 5 or 6 weeks, and then we opened back up. Um, but at the beginning, nobody knew what was going on, so I'm like, that's okay. Like trying to
Yeah.
cooperate and all those kind of things. Um, but in those 5 or 6 weeks, I had somebody close to me ask. They said, "Are you dying inside because you're not preaching?"
Mm, mm,
And I said, "No, I'm fine." And it's weird to most people, pastors. I could never preach another sermon and I'd be fine. I'm actually not a just I happen to be good on a platform. It doesn't mean I crave it.
mm,
What I crave is leading people.
mm,
So I this is what drives some of our friends crazy is you can invite me to preach to an arena of people and I'll pass on that to hang out with 20 pastors.
mm.
And it drives my publisher crazy. I'm like, I don't get
This
energized
could
by
get
it.
your name out there.
Yeah, it's like, why aren't you a social media star? I'm like, I don't care. I don't care.
Yeah.
But if I can keep a pastor of a church of 150 people in the fight, and if I can help them get healthy and help their church get healthy, I care a lot about that. So I did an interview one time, and the guy said, he said, "You're the biggest church I've never heard of." And
Mm.
I had an associate with me, and he jumped in. This is Joe Caruso, and he jumped in. He
Yeah,
goes, "You
yeah.
have no idea what a big compliment you just paid
Yeah.
Jeff." So I'm not trying to be. I don't care. I don't really like it, um, and I really don't care about it. I care a lot about keeping guys in the fight. I care a lot about making their lives easier. I care a lot
Yeah.
about. Um, I get to be the Newt Larson at this stage of my life, and I care a lot
Yeah.
about that. I care, and so it's just the way that I'm wired, and I'm very relaxed in those settings, and that it's fulfilling to me. And I somehow this is what happens. Like, did you know that Robert Redford died the other day?
Yes. Yeah.
And how did that impact you?
Not much.
There you go.
And I didn't. Yeah.
And he's world famous, right? But
Probably impacted my parents a little bit.
if I said to you that Bob Combs passed away, see, it would deeply affect your life or other mutual friends that we have. And I'm like, yeah, that there. If I get you know 50 million views on TikTok and I die, the next guy is just going to get 51 million views. What do I care? And there
Yeah.
are people who are called to that. And I'm like, that's great. I'm called to the city of Akron in Northeast Ohio.
Yeah.
And the people God has put under my charge, I can't keep up with them.
Yeah. That's
So
true. That's true.
and the pastors, if I can help them along the way, I love doing that, and I will prioritize that. But if you say go speak at this arena. This was this last summer. Come speak at this arena and you can sell your books. I'm like, I wrote my books for my church. I don't
Mm,
really even care about selling them, to be honest with you. So
yep.
I passed on that so I could go to with a group of church planners in San Francisco and encourage them and see what they were doing. And there was like 12 of us, So that's the kind of stuff that drives me more.
I love your heart to be relational, real, pour into pastors, be a shepherd. As we wrap things up, like what would you say to a pastor, maybe like a 30-year-old version of who's just trying to figure out who he is and what leadership life is going to be like? I mean, you
Mhm.
could say this to Isaac or to Josiah, like your sons that are going into ministry now. What's something that you encourage younger pastors with?
Um, I would say this, maybe three or four things. One, trust the Lord more. When I was 30, I believed way more in my abilities, talents, and ability to work.
Mm,
I still can work anybody under the table. And I wish, I don't wish, looking back, I'm like, my life would have been so much easier if I trusted the Lord more.
mm,
And I remembered it was his church, not Jeff's achievements. So trust the Lord more. The second thing I would say is do everything that you can to get life-giving relationships around you. Start with your
mm,
family, and then other men, women, if they're female pastors, but men if you're a male pastor. And you're
yeah.
probably going to have to create those relationships. You're not going to stumble into them. You don't have the time, especially if you have a family. You don't have the time. So put it on a calendar, make it some weird time, but it's worth the investment. And then it takes time uh, to
Mm,
to build that. I think probably the third thing I would say is count your joys.
mm,
If you're a type A, I'm a type A high drive guy. I critique my wins. I don't enjoy them.
mm.
And so when God rewards you with somebody coming to Christ or a big day of baptisms or a big attendance, it's not arrogant to look and say, God, thank you. Thank you. Like it put wind in my
Yeah.
sails. And then the last thing I would say is always be an environment around lost people.
Mm,
Um,
yeah.
if you lose your heart for the lost, you've lost your heart for ministry and you've lost half of the fun of it.
Mm,
And so
right.
if it's the
Right.
gym, if it's a neighbor, whatever it is, like have friendships, show up in their world, skip church stuff to go to their parties, and it will keep you relevant and it'll keep you passionate about what you're doing. I always say about Grace Church doesn't make sense until you're sitting in a service at Grace Church with a lost person. And then you're like, oh, I'm so glad we do this and not that. We say this and not that.
Yeah.
And when I have lost contact with lost people, I've lost the joy and the motive of ministry. And so I've tried to make that a discipline in my life.
Mm.
That's probably a long enough list right now.
That was good. Well, it reminds me of you say this frequently, like Grace Church, we want to make Jesus make sense to people.
Yep.
I mean, so much about Christianity can be nebulous or diluted or whatever you hear on the news can be 80 different versions of like who Jesus is or what it means to be a Christian. And for you to say, no, I want to be around people who are far from God on a regular basis because it keeps my heart loving them, but it also helps me think, how can the church, right, make
Yep.
this easy?
And it's probably a different podcast and
Yeah.
another conversation, but I want to make Jesus make sense. Not the church, not
Yeah.
Christianity, not evangelicalism, Jesus.
Right.
And when you put that discipline in place, it's amazing what you don't do and where you don't go, what you do say, and then what you do. And that to me is my calling, and it's how God wired me. I have a gift, I guess, maybe of being able to make things make sense that way, and that's what I want to give my life to. So.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Jeff, that's maybe a teaser for another episode for another day. But thanks so much for coming on the Love Pastors podcast. Great to see you and grateful for your friendship over the years, bro.
Thank you, buddy. Thanks for all you're doing, Gary. I love your heart. Love you. You know that. And what you're doing is good and necessary. So thanks for taking that call.